Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And today we were on adventures today. So I would have to say that we were exploring a little bit on the outside. Mondays, quite often, I spend in connection with my sister Alice. We do have a commonality in our interests. We both love thrifting. And so Mondays, we usually go out and we look for scores. And today, we did so amazing, like so amazing when it came to like profit type stuff, like so good. And I went to her house and I took pictures for her and everything as she sat there and listed everything up. And it's just a really nice way to remind myself that I am human, right? And I have to make sure that that I give that equal time to the outside, right? That equal time and equal effort and equal investment, right? I have to invest in myself, right? It's how I'm going to make this amazing life for myself, right? Something that I can appreciate. I was just sitting here and I was just watching a video on, right, manifesting and abundance. Personally, I think I have a very abundant life, right? It may not be in a monetary form, but that emotional and mental well being, right, by my perspective, right, is everything to me. You know, I look out in the world and I am a spectator. I spend a great part of my day being a spectator, but equally a participant, right? Just to make sure that everybody I'm right in the middle, and it is in those actions that we take that move us over. But those actions are the outside. Those actions are the human participation in all of this, right? And I was actually having this conversation yesterday, talking about how we don't treat ourselves well. Lots of us, right? We have that distrust for even ourselves, that we can't make good decisions for ourselves, or maybe we think often that we're being selfish and just thinking about ourselves. But in the truth, we are no good to anybody else until or unless we are taking care of ourselves, right? It's very important for me to make sure that I am finding what I'm doing at the very least interesting, at the very least, that I am making some movement, that I actually see the evidence in myself. And also, it's not enough just for me to see that evidence, right? It's my intent that that evidence is shown obviously. It's funny that I'm saying that, being a highly sensitive and empath, it's very important for me to see the evidence because, throughout my entire life, I have been blinded by the idea. I knew there were aspects of myself that were shy, but I attributed it to some of those problems that I perceived myself to be having, or somebody told me that I had, and it makes us a little bit insecure to show up in our own ideas, right? In our own perspectives, in our own beliefs in ourselves, and our own beliefs in our world that we surround ourselves. It's a little bright in here. Let me turn. I have a main light there. It's a little bit better, right? And we can not trust ourselves in making those decisions, right? We have ideas, we have dreams, we have great imaginations, we have, right, those things we would like to have, or those things we wish we had, right? But it's we're not making the movement towards it, right? And lots of times you hear, right, you're just not taking that action. If you want it, you got to move towards it. And, it feels like it's singling us out, right? You're just not putting in the work, right? You're just not doing enough. But it's not that we're not doing enough, right? It's not that we have to do more, but in a sense, we do have to do more, because in our limiting beliefs, we beat ourselves up. We don't have that confidence in ourselves to make those good decisions, right? So we do need to be, right, a little bit stricter with ourselves. We do have to put in a little bit more reps than maybe the person beside us who things come so easily. But that's in their upbringing, that is in their way of thinking and in their beliefs, right? And we believe something different. We believe what's manifesting in our lives just as much as somebody else is manifesting what's going on in their lives. I am grateful for the abundance that comes into my life, right? I do not have a lot of emotional and mental discomforts, right? I have those hiccups, I have those obstacles, I have those things that don't work out for me, but that's just frustration, because in the moment I'm not there yet, but it's not that I'm not moving. I'm just not there yet, right? And I have to make that movement towards, because, well, in my mindset, right, that capability, possibly that invitation is not grounded and in my beliefs. And so we can be a little bit standoffish, we can be a little bit shy, we can be a little bit insecure in the way we think. And when we do that, right? This is why we have to keep moving, right? Doesn't matter how fast we go, faster the better, but right, highly sensitives and empaths, we move slowly because we feel absolutely everything out as we're taking those steps, because there's lots of blind spots. We can't stop. We understand we can't stop, that we're constantly having to move forward, right? But it's not because we have to. Does that make sense? We only have to because, so if you work on the mindset, and this is my way of thinking, if I can work in that mindset and, right, be that evidence that we can turn the way we think around. And, right, I think, right, I'm starting to see that evidence in myself. And it gives me that courage to maybe go a little bit harder, right? Right? Because you're capable of going a little bit harder at that point. And that's where the speed picks up, because it's easy now, right? And then we get to that point where maybe somebody else looks at us and goes, "Oh, if everything comes so easy for them." I'm waiting for that day. It's going to be amazing, right? Everything comes so easy for them. Not understanding it's going to happen for them too, as long as, right, you just don't stop moving, right? Just don't stop moving. And if you have to, pivot, right? When you don't know what to do, right? Just do something, pick something, make a choice and move towards that. If you're not in the going in the right direction, believe me, you're going to get a 180 or a 360 100%, right? More often than not, you start where you go back to where you started quite often, and that's the 360, right? But sometimes as we get the lessons and absorb the lessons, we're on to the next lesson. And when you're on to the next lesson, you're right at the beginning of the new lesson, but it's got tools that you've picked up along the way. So it's not like a 360 that you need, right? Right? Maybe it's a 180, and how amazing is it that you only have to do a 180, right? Pretty soon, 45-degree angles. And then finally, right? Just a straight pipe. And if anybody's there, let me know so that I can follow you in your evidence, right? Right? In your evidence. And that's the thing, right? We're all picking up bits and pieces from all over the place. And what will get me to the place where I will believe in something is going to be a little bit of a different route than anybody else, right? But there's still lessons that can serve us, right? It's the same lessons that I need. Those tools that I have on my belt can all be picked up by anybody. It's just a matter of making that movement, right? Making that movement. You make that movement as long as you're moving, right? You're working on those lessons and you're accomplishing those lessons, right? Just not at a super speed, maybe, right? But just keep moving. Just keep moving. It was one of the, well, I think it was uh, one of the very first lessons, right? Let's get going. Set some goals. It was a pivot, actually, that I had to do. Was it a 360? I don't think so because my brand is still all built into my brand. It's just the brand looks different, more ingredients in the brand, more variety in the brand, and more evidence, right? More evidence in the brand as we move forward. And my brand doesn't look anything like what I started with, right? And it would be pretty odd for me to carry on in my understandings that I have now in what I was doing. It had no choice but to change with me if it was going to stay with me because I was moving forward, and it was either just giving up and just picking up in something different or amalgamating and assimilating these changes and these choices and these movements that I was making into what I was doing. And well, the evidence is that I chose the latter, and I think it served me well. Right? I'm very grateful to still have my brand. Right? I'm very grateful. It should have failed so many times, right? But in never quitting and never giving up and finding a way in pivoting, right? Right? And just making those steps the best that I could, right? Made a little bit of movement in that. Okay, I don't know where that came from because today is Monday. We are picking our 37th word. We're getting close, you guys. We're getting close to the end of this adventure and this experience in these 54 words that we have been picking and working with each week. Last week we had that word patience, and it was right. It was kind of inwardly directed for me, right? And because I show up fresh, I'm hoping and I'm expecting and I'm optimistic that that movement, right? It's a whole week. There must have been a little bit of movement in that week because I didn't stop. I just kept showing up, right? I just keep showing up. And even though the obstacles, the lessons, the failures, the procrastinations, the confusion, the tiredness, right? It slows you up. I didn't stop. I just kept moving and right? And I got through that week of patience. That one word, patience, brings to mind I had no idea when I started this. When we picked 54 words, I kind of had an idea if I was going to work with each word for a week that it could take up to a year to get this completed. But the thing is, we're adding on to the plate now, right? Remember what I said, as we take in lessons, as we move forward, even in those baby steps, we will pick the word. But as we move in these baby steps, we find things start to become a little bit easier. We become more grounded in our values and in our beliefs and those truths for ourselves. And when you can't be budged with that, it's kind of like, right? It's kind of like our guiding light. Our movement just, right, kind of works around those beliefs that we have that we're supposed to be, right, moving within those guidelines, and those guidelines are going to be different for each one of us, right? Depending on what we would like for our lives, what we would like in putting that roof over our heads, what we would like in those relationships that come into our lives, what we would like for that future you, our future us. And it changes constant, beyond constant, right? That's why it's important to have those goals, right? And to keep making that movement in that direction. If, right, if you see that that movement is being made, it's telling you, okay, that's some good movement, right? But if you start getting boulders dropped on your head, like, and stopping you in your tracks, you have to kind of, right, give it some thought, pay it some attention, make some new choices, and those are the pivots. And I have done many, many, many pivots, right? And I'm not sure if there's some more pivots going on. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are, right? But in this moment, I am secure and grounded in this project of 54 words, right? And it has been, I'm not going to say it's been challenging. I'm going to say it's been very, what's the word I'm looking for? Insightful. That's the word. So insightful. I thought it was right. We were just going to fluff through each of these words, and I haven't been allowing myself. And I think it's because, right, that I'm showing up here every day. And I know, right, that if I show up here without that conversation, without that perspective, whether it's my perspective or it's in the experience or an adventure I had or an experience, an adventure that somebody else had, maybe it was a conversation, maybe it was, right, something I learned in watching my my, I don't know, these videos are wellness. 100% they are wellness because I feel and I experience and I see the evidence for myself in what it does for me, right? So, yeah, I just call it wellness, right? I am neither spiritual, I am not religious, but I know, right? It doesn't take a brain surgeon to understand that there is some kind of direction in this, and not just direction for me, right? I'm meeting some very, very very interesting characters in their own movement. And so just as much as I am, right, a student, I am a teacher, but just as much as a participant, right? I am a spectator, and right, and that's what I do. I listen to the conversations. I look at what people are bringing to the table because it shows the person that they are, right? And also in my expectations, um, right? In that moving towards what I want, right? Is that moving towards me, right? Because that's important. Because if it's not moving towards me, then it's not for me, right? That it's not for me, right? Because anything that I move towards, Um, well, it's got to celebrate me as much as I celebrate it. And what that it is, I have no idea in this moment because this is this moment, and the next moment is going to offer up something totally different. And, right, I could find myself in a 360, no doubt. Okay, you guys. First perspective. It's Monday. We are picking a new word. Um, I know, right? We're in it for a week. And I'd like to finish off these 54 words on a high, right? With the next. So we're on our 38th word or 37th word. We're on our 38th word. So we have 16 more words to go. Is that correct? I would like the lessons for myself and what I bring to the table in each one of those lessons to get better and better in the weeks coming, right? Um, I think I've made some movement in the past 37 words, right? I think and I believe, and I shouldn't say I think, I should say I believe because I do believe. Because, like I said, that evidence is what's going to help me to believe because I'm highly sensitive and empathic. I can't trust my own judgment, right? Because, well, I trust. And that's a problem, right? That's a problem sometimes because when you trust, it can be used against you quite often, right? It can be used against you because what's a good example? Empath. Okay, well there you go. 57 years old. I was 57 years old. Oh goodness, we haven't even picked the word yet. 57 years old when I when I discovered this word empath. Right? I had no idea what an empath was. I had no idea what a highly sensitive person was. Right? I knew what a sensitive person was only because my mother would just all the time she'd say, "Oh, you're just too sensitive." She'd say that all the time to me. People would say, "Oh, I'm just so sensitive." Right? But this word empath, it never came across my path in my entire life. Empathy? I knew what empathy was, right? I thought it was just, sympathizing with other people, right? Oh, he broke his leg. Oh, that's so terrible. He's not going to be able to go to the park and it's summertime now, right? And this is what I think. And this is kind of what it is, but I never ever went any deeper than that. Never. 57 years old, right? I discovered in a moment. And these were questions and observations and my own experiences in my life, that that understanding what an empath and understanding who and what I was, it would have resolved so many issues for me. It would have answered so many questions for me, and it would have set me on a different path in a in a moment. If I had known what it was, it would have been like the exorcist. I would have been doing that 360, and I would have been off and right. But some things are meant to happen the way they were meant to happen, right? I don't cry over that spilt milk. I find it curious. I understand in that evidence, right, that I wasn't meant to know what an empath was, right? It was never meant to come across my path. Not because, right, anybody said, make sure Sydney doesn't find out this, right? Not because of that, but because of something else that made it so it didn't come across my path. It's like each of us, right? Totally ignorant to a lot of ideas about life until that one split second that offers up an opportunity, right? Just to kind of have a little pop and go, oh, wow, that's what it's all about. Or in our limiting beliefs and in those struggles and in some of those traumas that we have, there's that need for a crank, right? Those cranks could be the 90 degrees. You can't do a 90 degree, but you can do a 180, and you could do a 360. And I've had many of them, and those are, like I said, the pivots, right? And that was an offering to me, but that was only an offering to me understanding who and what I was, because, well, I was making some movement, and what that understanding and that lesson only came to me because I took the prerequisites, that I cleared a little bit of that path, I cleared a little bit of those obstacles in my life, right? I resolved some of those issues, and that little pop of, oh my goodness, how could I have missed that? How could that have never, ever come across my path, right? How could I have been a blank in that, right? And it was so obvious to me, right? In that evidence that there was something or someone else, right, at the steering wheel. I do believe, right? I believe in free choice. I've had so much free choice. That free choice has gotten me in a lot of doo doo, but it's got me into a lot of amazing experiences and adventures and relationships that are right. And I see out there in the world, because, like I said, I'm just as much a spectator, right, as a participant, that a lot of people, right? A lot of souls don't get that kind of abundance, right? They get that kind of abundance, maybe. They may get different types of abundance, right? Uh, right? They might have the most amazing relationships out there, because I see people out there with the most amazing relationships, with the most amazing good influence in their life, right? I have a niece that is surrounded by good influence, and I see the benefits in her life because of that influence that she's had in her life. And at the same time, she's adding those ingredients of fun and joy, right? And consideration, right? Those baseline values that I appreciate so much and that I look for in others, right? And hopefully right? That you look for that in me, right? Because what I'm looking for, right, is looking for me too, right? Okay, you guys, I'm babbling. First impression. Let's pick our. I'm just going to double check here. 36. I just double checking here. I'm just trying to find last week's word here. We are on our 38th word, people. We are on our 38th word. This word that we're going to have this week, hopefully, is our 38th word and not a word we've done already. Because, right, there's a lot of words on here that are already highlighted off. There's a good chance that we could get that word again. Here we go. Oh my goodness. Serendipities, you guys. Serendipities. Our 38th word in our deck of 54 powerful words is this word experience. This is a big word for me. You know, it ties in hand in hand with one of my most important words, change, right? Change is the offering of experiences, isn't it? Change offers up new experiences. It's absolutely amazing that we got this word experience this week because, you know, I'm working on my experiences for myself, right? Because in the experiences, that's what offers up our independence. That's what offers up our knowledge and know all, and that, what's that next step? What do we do next in that, right? We finished this one. What's the next lesson, right? What's the next experience? As children, we normally don't get to have our own experiences. And when we do have those experiences, we're very young, right? And for the most part, I would have to say, like for myself, I don't remember too much, right? Small events, those major small events, those big events, they'd have to be big events for them to imprint on me, for me to remember, right? But for the most part, we're having experiences through somebody else's desires, through somebody else's movement, right? Change offers up amazing, amazing experiences, right? Experiences are something fresh, right? If you're okay, let's use my bottle digging as an example, right? Of experiences, right? I love bottle digging. It's an experience I like. But every time I go bottle digging, I am having a different experience. Maybe it's a rainy day. Maybe I'm wearing different boots. Maybe I'm digging in a different spot. I'm removing different bottles and articles from the ground. I'm having experiences, right? That choice that I made, right, can be the same, exact same experience over and over and over again. But that makes for a boring life. It makes for a life that has no movement and nothing in knowledge wise to be added to the plate, which also hinders the movement, right? It's the choices and the change that offer up the experience. I went to a lot of different schools. I didn't want to go to a lot of different schools, but I didn't have a choice because I was living and riding the waves of my father's desires and experiences, right? And his experiences obviously rubbed on me because, well, I was his daughter, right? I was his daughter. As an adult, right? Because of some of those choices that we have made, because of some of that change that has come into our life, and sometimes, right, quite often, change comes into our life without us making that choice, right? We just have to ride those waves because it's somebody else's decision, right? That we have to ride those waves. But as adults, right, some of those experiences that we have were not so great, right? We're not so great. And sometimes it can stall us in the movement, right? It can make us want to give up. It can make us say, no, no way, I'm not doing that. It can stop us in the lessons and stop us from making any kind of movement. So we can't even pick up those prerequisites for that one change in our life that we would so want or so need for ourselves or so desire, right? I should have said want, I should have said desire because it's always in the desire. We don't always know what we want. And that's the truth. But in the moment, we always desire. Just sometimes we think we want things, right? But that's only because we don't know what the offerings are. We don't have that confidence in us. Remember what I said, that we don't have that confidence in ourselves, right? That belief that we can do it. We don't have that, right? We don't have those lessons beforehand, we think. We don't have enough tools in our tool belt. And most of the time we know we do, right? But we still find ourselves stuck, right? Because in those lessons we have and some of those beliefs that we have, right? That don't even belong to us, that belong to a parent or a guardian or a teacher, right? Even to kids in school that are, right, just see something in you and just want to, right, bring you down into their, right? Because I had an abundant life, right? I do have an abundant life because I recognize the difference in my abundance compared to the abundances that other people desire, right? That other people make their movement towards, that people in their limiting beliefs when they don't see, right? They don't see that their abundance is manifesting. Well, take a look at what are you manifesting, right? Are you manifesting some good things in your life, right? Are you giving yourself those smiles? Are you giving yourself that ease of mind, right? Are you giving yourself that consideration, that kindness, that, right, being highly sensitives and empaths, we, right, we tend to divvy it out, but we don't demand it for ourselves, from ourselves, right? We don't demand it from others because we give energy. We don't take energy. And that's a hindrance. And that's I think it's a blessing in disguise in some way because it keeps you from taking from others, doesn't it? It stops you from not taking others into consideration. Okay, so now let's pull it right back to this word experience and, me tying it in as an adult, right? as a child and as somebody younger, right? It's going to be programmed into us. But as an adult, in order to initiate, right, we have to make a choice. We have to desire it, right? We have to make that movement towards it, right? And when you make that movement towards it, there is an experience. And whether that experience is a good experience or a bad experience, whether exciting or fun or, right, or just as easily disastrous, it's still an experience that offers up lessons, if in nothing else, in what not to do next time, right? Experience. Yeah, I'm going to look at it a little bit different tomorrow. You know, change, I understand. Experiences come with making a choice and moving towards it. You need to have the action in order to have an experience, right? And it's much better that you initiate that experience, right? Right? It's better if you initiate that experience than having somebody else initiate it for you. There's lessons in that too, but whether or not you're going to recognize it, that's a different story. Because remember, me didn't even know what an empath was until I was 57 years old. And that's a truth. And I was a smarty pants. At least I would like to think that I was a smarty pants when I was a little kid. It was part of my hypervigilance. The more that I knew, the more that I could protect myself, right? This is the way I thought of it. The more I would know what to do when I got myself in those sticky, sick situations. And right, I had to feel it out in order to get out of it, right? You have to have an experience in order to, well, have an experience. And that experience only comes from making a movement towards a choice. And if you're not going to make that choice, more often than not, somebody will make that choice for you, right? And that's painful. That's depressing. And that's sad. And that is, well, I would have to say that I just feel the heaviness in saying that, right? Right? It's kind of like sometimes when I'm at work, when I say, find yourself a project, or I'm going to find one for you and I can find gooders, right? And I say that with a smile and I say it jokingly. But now try that and say, find a chore, right? Find something to do. Do something right now. And if you don't, you're getting that 180 or you're getting that 360 and you're not even going to get a warning, right? And you're worried about taking a little bit of movement towards that desire of yours. Just wait. Just wait, right? And that's what happens. And I've right, I've had those experiences so many times, and I'm not stopping. I'm moving forward because, right, those 180s and those 360s are not fun. They're not fun. The 360s are starting over, right? The 180s are change, right? But they're change made through somebody else's decision or something else's decision, right? I'd much rather get that movement started myself. So when that 180 shows up, it's not a true 180. And if it is, it's going pretty slow that I can pick the lessons up along the way, right? I'm going to come back into my live tonight, and take it in for myself. I know there's something in there for me, something that I'm not getting, that's reflecting in this life right now, right? That I'm dealing with right now. I get that I'm moving in this moment in those experiences that I'm not having in the moment, but I'm moving into, right? So that, well, when I say, well, we're going on this big trip in September, well, I'm just not going to go la di da di da, take my lessons in and go and do my job every day. And then that experience is just going to happen itself, right? It's not. Or it will, but it's going to look a lot different than it would if it didn't have the flavor of Cindy in it, right? I've been working on my trip this evening. I'll be probably working on it and dreaming of it and thinking about it, right? From now until the day I leave, and that's okay, right? That's movement, and that's going to keep the smile on my face. I can't think of anything funner than, right, planning a vacation. It's going to be amazing. Every year it gets better and better and better, and that's the truth. And that's an abundance that I wouldn't give up for anything. I'm very appreciative of those experiences that I get to have every year. And I have to say that experience comes from me, right, grounding myself in a job that puts a roof over my head, that allows me to take in lessons and take myself into consideration and have different experiences and work on my brand, right, and have experiences that are very much in line with what I would like to be doing, what I would desire. Looks a little bit different, but it's supposed to look a little bit different. And right down the road in that experience, right? That experience, you build up the experience, the more that you do it, I'll get better and better at what I do, and it's going to look more and more and more like what I would love it to look like. 100%. Okay, I'm losing myself here. It is, well, time to take in a lesson, I think. I have a full drink here, so I don't even have to get out of my chair. I'm happily home now. I had a great day out with my sister, and it was very productive. It was an experience. It really was an experience of high fives and score. Yeah, it was lots of fun. Okay, you guys, we are working on a new word. Our 38th word is experience. Tomorrow we'll come at it with a different perspective after I've gotten a few lessons suggested to me, and I do a little bit of Googling and see where we can take this week. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be an experience. It's going to be an experience. Okay, you guys, have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Oh my goodness, experience.